supervisors who will be attending with us tonight are present. I'd like to call the, what month is it? February meeting of the Manitowoc County Board to order. We'll start with invocation by Supervisor Engelbrecht, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. We pray. God of power and might, wisdom and justice, through your authority as rightly administered laws are enacted and judgment is decreed. Assist with your spirit of counsel and fortitude to the supervisors gathered here tonight. May we always seek the ways of righteousness, justice, and mercy. Grant that they may be enabled by your powerful protection to lead with honesty and integrity. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor Engelbrecht. The roll call is going around. We have 23 members present. Supervisors Shimalunas and Bauman are excused. Supervisor Shimalunas may be joining us late. Our first order of business is to consider the minutes from our last meeting. I'd be looking for a motion to approve those. Motion by Supervisor Hanson, second by Supervisor Benke. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the minutes are approved. We have no additions to the agenda, so that'll take us into public comment. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak tonight? Any members of the public wishing to speak? Yes, Ms. Yost.
Good evening. There's good news. Manitowoc County may receive an estimated $2 million in 2024 shared revenue distributions. Future allocations will grow with sales tax collections. I've documented that over County Executive Ziegelbauer's tenure. Since 2006, the amount planned in adopted budgets to be spent to pay back the principal the county borrowed was $44 million, and with interest and fees, that figure ballooned to $60 million. Of course, the adopted budgets were only the plans. So how did the plans work out? Poorly, very poorly. County records reported at the end of 2021 the borrowing costs are $36,000 plus property tax payers was $74 million in principal, interest, and fees. That's 68% more than Ziegelbauer's adopted budget. And he has known about this pending courthouse expense since assuming office in 2006 because the study was done in 2004. So here we are, almost 20 years later, and he didn't bother to plan for it or to save for it because he figured to do what he's always done, borrow and borrow more while indebting the property taxpayers for decades. Of course, he dresses it up by claiming that it spreads the burden over more taxpayers for 20 to 25 years. Our county currently owes $30 million in principal, interest, and fees, despite Ziegelbauer's printed claim in the Valders Journal that, quote, we don't borrow money anyway. Now Ziegelbauer wants to borrow another $30 million in principal to renovate the 116-year-old courthouse. The borrowing would be done in 3 tranches in 3 different years, 2023, 2024, and 2025. The printed estimated interest rates range from 3.5 to 4%. As we all know, interest rates are variable and rising. Calculated at 3.88% over 23 years means property taxpayers would pay back $45 million. In other words, to borrow that $30 million would cost half again as much in interest and fees, another $15 million. Borrowing money is very expensive. There are alternatives. You supervisors could agree by resolution to use a quote half cent on a dollar spent sales tax proceeds of $7 to $9 million for 4 to 5 years with specified certain end date. Or using sales tax proceeds, build a new energy efficient office complex at Siegelbauer's estimated cost of $37 million. And so, as I've said so many times before, I continue to advocate for a half cent on a dollar spent countywide sales tax as the borrower is slave to the lender. Proverbs 22:17. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak tonight? Anybody else who would like to speak? For a third and final time, is there anybody else who would like to speak for public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment. We have a few appointments tonight by the county executive and by myself. We'll start with an appointment to the Ethics Board. So the appointment is for Attorney Catherine Reynolds for a term expiring February 28th of 2026. Do I see a motion? Motion by Supervisor Heller, second by Supervisor Sikowitz. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the appointment is confirmed. We also have an appointment to the Local Emergency Planning Committee. The appointment is for Gary Shavlik. Do I see a motion? Motion by Supervisor Falkowski, second by Supervisor Linsmeyer. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the appointment is confirmed. Next, we have two appointments to the Traffic Safety Commission. One is for Benjamin Meinert and the other is for Joseph Janty. Do I see a motion? Supervisor Niles, second by Supervisor Mink. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And those appointments are confirmed. Next, we have the appointments by the County Board Chair to the Ad Hoc Courthouse Restoration Advisory Committee. So the names are listed there. We have Supervisor Bry, Bauman, Klein, Nadel, Phipps, Sikowitz, Circuit Court Judge Robert Duane, and two citizen members, Caitlin Piazza and John Delsman. Motion by Supervisor Bry to approve, second by Supervisor Benke. Any discussion? So I'll just comment. We had a number of citizens express interest in being on the committee. So I want to thank you all for putting the word out there that we were looking for citizen members. I got to talk to a lot of great people, and I think we found some really great citizens that'll be beneficial to helping us out navigating this project. And I also want to thank all of you for your interest. There were a number of supervisors who expressed their interest and desire to be on the committee, and I think we've got a good team. And even if you are not on the committee, please come to the committee meetings. I will be sending out an email to the approved appointments a little bit later this week to set up our first meeting time. But again, this is a community discussion and that involves all of you, so please come with your ideas and encourage citizens to contact you, myself, or the committee, so that way we can make sure everybody who has an interest in this building is involved. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving those appointments?
Aye.
Opposed? Those appointments are approved. That'll take us into committee reports, starting with Planning and Park Commission Supervisor Falkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Planning and Park Commission meeting was conducted on Monday, January 23rd. On our docket that day, we had 3 public hearings for rezone requests and 1 code amendment for Chapter 31. In addition, we had 3 development plans for subdivisions for us to review. The meeting proceeded with open meeting compliance and then moved on to our items on the docket. First, for our consideration tonight, rezone request from the town of Manitowoc Rapids. Their request was for a change of exclusive ag to rural residential. The staff commentary was presented in a letter from the town of Manitowoc Rapids, and planning supported the request and was placed on the record. Mr. Kurtzwell spoke and answered questions for the commissioners and agreed to a modification as suggested while the mapping was being displayed in real time, a success and first-time deployment of our integrated tech. The commission approves the modified rezone request, passing unanimously. Therefore, on behalf of the commission, I so move to approve ordinance 2022-2023-51, amending the zoning map for Brad and Jennifer Kurtzwell.
We have a motion to amend the zoning map. Do I see a second? Supervisor vote. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. The clerk will conduct the vote.
That works.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Brad and Jennifer Kurtzwell.
And the motion passes. Supervisor Falkowski?
Next for consideration is Revocable Family Trust from the town of Liberty. They are requesting a change from rural residential to exclusive ag and to exclusive ag to rural residential. Essentially, this is shifting the parcel zoning to reflect the existing buildings appropriately. The staff commentary in a letter from the town of Liberty supporting the change was added to the record. The commission approved the rezone request, passing unanimously. On behalf of the commission, I so move to approve ordinance 2022-2023-52, amending the zoning map for the Mink Irrevocable Family Trust.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Supervisor Engelbrecht? Any discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Mink Irrevocable Family Trust.
And the ordinance is adopted. Supervisor Falkowski?
Was the rezone request involving an engaging process examining the criteria applied to the parcel's designation. The request for a rezone along the staff commentary and additional town support was recorded. At the hearing, 12 individuals testified on the record about the positions they advocated. The preponderance of testimony was not in favor of the rezone. The commentary often was their attendance was the first opportunity to present their positions. All attendees wishing to testify about the rezone was given opportunity to present any factors that have any bearing on the rezone to be taken into consideration. All commissioners engaged in this discussion, and any anomalies that didn't comport with the rezone request criteria was discussed. The commission unanimously motioned to postpone this hearing until our next meeting to remedy some of these points. After a pause and returning to the agenda, the commission took up a petition for the map and ordinance amendment of the Chapter 31 of Manitowoc County Code titled Floodplain Zoning. This solicitation was for the comments on the proposed floodplain zoning ordinance map revisions, which is in fact required by the state and federal law. The staff commentary was read and discussed. No one presented testimony, and then the hearing was closed. A motion to approve this map and ordinance amendment request passed unanimously and to forward to the amendment to the county board. Therefore, on behalf of this commission, I so move to approve ordinance 2022-2023-53 floodplain zoning.
There's a motion to approve the ordinance. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Zimmer. Any discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance repealing and recreating Manitowoc County Code Chapter 31 floodplain zoning.
And the ordinance is adopted. Supervisor Falkowski.
To continue, we heard 3 variance requests after properly vetting them and proceeded to hear testimony discussing each of them individually, unanimously approved all the requests for Loretta Meyer et al. From the town of Sedgwick, David and Kirsten DeTroy of the town of Sedgwick, and Frederick and Renee Reskowitz from the town of Sedgwick. One of the remaining items of business was a prestigious disc golf tournament request for the use of one of our parks. The Lakeshore Ladies Disc Golf Tournament made a request for using the Cato Falls County Park. We discussed the application to decide the granting of this permit, and for the tournament advocate testified and answered questions for the commission. Staff personnel reported as a reference additional information about prior events at the park. The commission approved the request, passing unanimously. And finally, we approved out-of-county trips in March for staff development and for changes in their field of expertise. Our next meeting date is scheduled for Monday, February 27th. Check your meeting notices in your emails for this meeting. And that is my report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Falkowski. Next, we have the Aging and Disability Board, Supervisor Wagner.
Thank you, Chairman Martel. The next meeting of the ADRC will be March 28th in the Kewaunee County Boardroom, starting at 10 o'clock. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Wagner. Next, we have the Board of Health, Supervisor Metzger.
We will be meeting March 9th at 5 p.m. at the Board of Health Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Supervisor Falkowski.
Our next meeting is scheduled for March 1st. That is my report.
Thank you. Next, we have the Executive Committee. I have no report because we just approved those appointments. Expo Ice Center Board, we have Supervisor Sikowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The February Expo Ice Board meeting was held on February 1st at 7 p.m. There were several subcommittee meetings scheduled prior to the main board meeting, and elections were held for vice chairs and secretaries of all the subcommittees. Work is wrapping up on the 2023 County Fair, which will be held from August 23rd to August 27th. There were subcommittee recommendations made for approval of the following items, and the following items were approved by the board. The 2023 budget for special entertainments was approved. The 2023 advertising and media budget was approved. Junior fair rules and regulations for junior fair swine and beef were approved. The Special Olympics Fun Run will be held on Wednesday, August 23rd at 6 p.m. The Demo Derby contract for Sunday of the fair was approved. Lou E's Comedy Circus contract, which is an everyday attraction at the fair, was approved. The Horse Pullers contract for Thursday afternoon was approved. 2024 agricultural vendor rates and outdoor midway vendor rates were set. The service groups that run the music pavilions attended the meeting and discussed the increased cost of musical entertainment and made a request for waiver of their tent rental fees. They explained that their profits made by the fair are put back into the community, and any relief from the waiver of fees would benefit the community. The request was tabled until the next meeting so further discussion could be had. There will be a beer and soda vendor meeting on March 15th at 5:30 at the Expo office. In the 2023 Manitowoc County Fairs of the Fair, Emma Dvorak attended the meeting and provided a brief bio to the board, and there was a group picture that followed the meeting. The next Expo Ice Center Board meeting is set for Wednesday, March 1st at 7 p.m. at the Expo office. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Sikowitz. Next, we have the Finance Committee, Supervisor Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Finance Committee met before the county board meeting tonight. We had not planned on meeting this month. We didn't have anything on the agenda till a claim came in. And the Corp Counsel asked if we would address that claim. It's for a cracked windshield driving on the highway, and we are denying that, as the insurance company told us we should deny it. So that's really the only business. We deny that claim.
There's a motion by Supervisor Hanson, second by Supervisor Bry. Any discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution denying claim for Troy Bierman.
And the motion is approved to deny the claim. Supervisor Hanson?
We will have our regularly scheduled meeting on the second Monday of the month if we need it in March. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Highway Committee. Supervisor Benke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on February 14th. Commissioner Grodiget had gone through a number of different things with the airport, the year-end lighting project that they're working on, and also we approved a donation from Tom Baer to go through that process, so you may be seeing that in the future coming before the county board. We talked about the 2022 highway year-end, which I think came out pretty well. 2023 GTAs, the general transportation aids. We talked about Yonda Pit. We're leasing some more area. We currently lease area for Broadwind Towers, and we're additionally going to lease an area for MJ Electric for some of their equipment. We talked about the Shoto Dam update, about the engineering, and that particular project will be starting soon. We talked about culvert lining, some of those culverts that are quite deep from the road surface that are way down in the bottom, quite deep, to go through a process of culvert lining them versus digging them out and putting new ones in. So that's a new technology that is a really good technology that we're going to use on that in certain projects. We talked about County X and 67 rumble strips. Thank you for Supervisor Niles for bringing that to Commissioner Grodiget's attention. Commissioner Grodiget went out to that area. We did have rumble strips in those two intersections prior. For some reason, they got taken out. Commissioner Grodiget went out and talked to some of the neighbors. So we're working on how that process, he also sent that to Traffic and Safety for their review. So they will be looking at that as well. We also talked about new driveway access inventory using GIS, which is going to move us again to technology to look at all those because we control driveway access on county highways. We're going to start getting into the technology where we can use the computer technology to and the GIS to mark those and where they're at and what we've approved and put the notes and everything to it. So definitely it's not going to happen right away, but it's moving us in the right direction, moving down years to come with the technology that we need to have. Our next meeting will be March 14th. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Benke. Human Services Board, Supervisor Bry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No real official report, but our next scheduled meeting is for this Thursday, February 23rd at 4:15 p.m. in the boardroom off of J Street. But I will say that with a caveat, as we know, there's a potential big winter storm coming. So I will be in contact with Director Lori Fury, and hopefully by noon at the latest on Thursday, we'll have an actual word of whether we're going to have the meeting or not. But that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Bry. Next, we have the Land Conservation and UW Extension, Education, and Agriculture Committee. Supervisor Wagner.
Thank you, Chairman Brian. Oh, darn. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Chairman Martell. And I even have it written on top. The Land Conservation Committee met, our next meeting will be March 16th at the County Office Complex at 4:45. The UW Extension, Education, and Agriculture Committee, the next meeting will be April 20th at 4:45 at the County Office Complex. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Wagner. Supervisor Marsh with the Personnel Committee report.
Thank you. We met on February 7th. We approved the reduction of nutrition education educator FTE of .90 to .80 for the remainder of 2023. We approved the establishment of a Highway Department CDL training program. We discussed recruitment and separation information for 2022 and discussed 2022 work from home hours, and finished with discussion regarding emergency management and sheriff's department recruitment. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, March 7th at 4:30, and that ends my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Marsh. Next, we have the Public Safety Committee, Supervisor Falkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Public Safety Committee met on February 8th. We confirmed the department's monthly reports and they were received. We had no questions offered about them. No one spoke for public comment, and we started our agenda. We discussed the resolution regarding the fentanyl crisis in our community and to warn the public. The alarming ratio of drug-related deaths to fentanyl in our county is out of 25 drug-related deaths, 19 here are from fentanyl. And in the mix of fentanyl are other substances, which hastens the need for informing the public. Take for one moment this next metric. The United States war deaths of the Korean, Vietnam, Gulf War, Afghanistan, and Iraq combined are equivalent to the fentanyl deaths so far. 7 years ago, fentanyl was an obscure hospital drug. Now it's a major part of an illicit drug market. A motion was made to approve the resolution adding info to line 68 of the resolution. It passed unanimously, and the final resolution is to be introduced on the March County Board meeting, or at the March County Board meeting. Lieutenant Remaker from the Sheriff's Department briefed us on the success of the County Metro Drug Task Force. They are the firewall protecting this county from illicit drugs and substances of abuse, while successfully halting some of the trafficking coming into this area. Fentanyl is an epidemic and is extremely dangerous. The task force is focusing on mid and upper level distribution networks and has an excellent relationship with the federal and state agencies. He and other task force members have committed a major part of their careers enforcing and keeping this county safe and from being overwhelmed with drugs. Our committee extended our gratitude for the efforts to Lieutenant Remaker and to the drug task force members. We then shifted to hear from Director Beckerdite a report about the emergency management department status. There will be many nuclear drills this year. The technology upgrades in the Ops Center room is completed. The emergency command vehicle should be delivered in March, and this committee is scheduled for a tour and inspect the vehicle during the September's meeting. Also, we were introduced to Deputy Director Ms. Olson, who has direct experience with dispatch. Very helpful for the next part of our meeting. We then recessed to tour the joint dispatch operations. Those who took up the invitation for the tour left with a lasting impression and appreciation for the dispatchers and the operation. We thank the director for the tour and our appreciation to the dispatchers for the demanding tasks they undertake. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 8th at the C&T building at 5 o'clock. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's my end of report.
Thank you, Supervisor Falkowski. Next, we have Public Works, Supervisor Droll.
Thank you, Chairman Martell. Public Works met Wednesday, February 8th at 4:30. We reviewed and discussed the solid waste and recycling division. Volumes of recyclables are steady, but market prices for recyclables are currently low. It was noted that the master contract for solid waste disposal that Manitowoc County maintains for all our municipalities yielded a net savings in 2022 of almost $1 million for the 26 county municipalities. That's versus the gate rate they would have to pay if we did not maintain that master contract. We reviewed and discussed the Building and Grounds Division and approved a pay request for Hammond Construction of $75,603.85 for the Courthouse Child Support Agency and Branch 4 remodeling project. We reviewed and discussed the Communications Division, noting that the microwave replacement project on the county's public safety radio towers has been completed. We reviewed and discussed the Information Technology Division, current operational projects, and our current cybersecurity initiatives. We reviewed and discussed the Expo Air Ice Center Division, the report on the 2023 fair, which went very well, as did the finances for the Expo this last year. I would like to note, as an aside, I was at Brewfest on Saturday, which is a Rotary fundraiser, and there were 37 microbreweries there with 300 or 400 people in the afternoon, and all having a good time. And I bought a raffle ticket from the Voodoo Ranger people and won a Voodoo Ranger doll about 3 foot tall that my wife donated to Rotary to be auctioned off, and it went for $250. And when I got home, I Googled Voodoo Ranger doll, and I found out somebody was trying to sell one on eBay for $1,750. So a good time was had by all. So thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Droll. Next, we have Transportation Coordinating Committee, Supervisor Hacker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Transportation Coordinating Committee will meet next on March 15th, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Hacker. Just a couple of announcements. I just want to remind you that for the Courthouse Advisory Committee, I'll be sending out an email to schedule that first meeting. Please watch for that. Our next meeting is going to be March 21st at our regular time of 6 p.m. Please be safe on the roads tonight and tomorrow over the next couple of days. Be wise and safe. And the polls are open yet for a couple of hours for our spring primary election, which our county clerk's office is going to be working hard tonight to administer. So those are my announcements. I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Supervisor Droll, second by Supervisor Mink. We are adjourned.